I'm Dan Wool.
And I'm Laura Lee. Thanks for joining us. A bonding bill that would have funded multiple projects in Duluth failed to make it out of the Capitol. As lift bridge restoration and other projects hang in the balance, Northern News Now's Jack Wiedner heard from state lawmakers about what comes next.
Infrastructure projects across Minnesota won't receive needed funding after a chaotic end to the Minnesota legislative session.
It was loud, it was rancorous, there was a lot of arguments.
Senator Grant Hochschild says that disorder caused multiple items to fall by the wayside, including a bonding bill.
We had full DFL support for a bonding bill this year. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the Republican votes we needed.
In Duluth alone, updates to the water treatment plant, the lift bridge, and seawalls won't get requested funding. It's an issue projects across the state now face. Both sides of the aisle blaming the other.
My friends on the Republican side insisted that we tie a bonding bill to policy things that we didn't want to tie them to.
My question is, did the majority really want it to go through, or was that just busy work?
House Minority Leader Lisa Damuth represents parts of central Minnesota. She says the fact they couldn't push funding through is evidence of a larger issue.
Minnesota has a spending problem, not a revenue problem, and that's something to keep in mind.
Projects like the lift bridge likely won't see funding until next session, which begins in January 2025. For it to happen any sooner, Governor Walz would need to call a special session, something Senate Assistant Majority Leader Nick Frentz would support.
I know some legislators, including me, that are optimistic that soon we can have a discussion about a special session.
In Duluth, Jack Wiedner, Northern News Now.
Jack, thank you. Now, Mayor Roger Reinert says the city plans to move forward with those projects that failed to receive state dollars by looking for other ways to secure funding.